That little song there is like a minute and like almost 2 minutes long, so I'm not gonna make you listen to all that. See, and we're not even set up properly because I don't have my Discord open. There we go. Now we're ready to rock and rolls. Rock the rolls. Good afternoon. For me, it's afternoon. Good afternoon or evening, everybody. I'm Greg. Yes. Hey, Indigo. Minute intro. Yeah, I'm gonna shorten it, Elements. I'm gonna make a cut I have a cut that's like 5 seconds long, and then one is 10 seconds long for my intros to YouTube videos. But I'm gonna make one that's like 30 seconds long. That way, I can do all my setup, play the intro, drink my water. Oh, I should have grabbed another one. The great cut. What is IRL and where I could? It's strictly retro. The IRL is completely retro. This is like old radio show / gaming. These are ZX Spectrum games. I think was it the ZX Spectrum that was the cassettes. It was like actual audio cassettes. Like they look like the audio cassettes, but you stick them into the system. That was how they played. Oh, for those kids out there, audio cassettes were these plastic cases with magnetic strips in them, and they would play music. Yeah, the ZX Spectrum was Look at all that stuff to your right. Oh, yeah. Well, I get new stuff, too. I just picked up Dragon Quest Builders. Right? Is that in shot? Yeah. I just picked that up today. And excuse me, Ryan, in case you didn't see yesterday's stream, I do also talk about old school stuff because I picked up the Qbert arcade machine. It's pronounced ZX. No. And we had a blast playing that. For anybody that wasn't here yesterday during that, I was playing this on stream, and it was hilarious. Or at least I was enjoying the heck out of it. That game. I've heard of that Minecraft. You know what, Spider? It is a Minecraft mod, and I can't. I just don't like Minecraft. I don't like sandbox games where you don't do. There's no purpose to it. And I loved this Dragon Quest game. True, arcade machines are as big as you are. Yeah, thank you, awesome. That's a clip of me playing that thing. I actually have it edited down. I'm thinking I'm gonna post. It's like 27 minutes of me playing that thing on stream. So I think I am gonna load that up. But yeah, it's Spectrum, Commodore 64, BBC Micro. Yeah, I knew there was more than one. 8-bit computer under the sun used tape. But where they experiment, did they look like actual music cassette tapes? Because I could swear there were some of them that used tapes that didn't look like cassette tapes. I just have no idea. To be honest, I don't know what era they are, but even that's before my time. Like the Odyssey 2 is before my time technically, but I remember having someone around in our neighborhood that had it, so I used to play it a lot. They go for really cheap. Yeah, which is always strange, Elements, that the oldest stuff, the stuff that normally is a draw, is the stuff that is the cheap. You know, I go to the conventions and it's the Atari 2600, the 5200 games. They're the ones in the box for $2, for even $1 sometimes, depending on where you go. Especially for Atari 2600. Let me turn myself up here. Okay. Yeah, it's so weird. You know, I would think that that's the harder stuff to get. That's the rarer stuff because there's so little of it. And there are only a few Atari games that are worth a lot of money. Sword Quest, Waterworld. We mentioned this the other day. It's either Sword Quest Waterworld that was released and it goes for a lot of money, and then the other Air World was not, or it's the other way around. Speaking of tapes, oh my god, like digital tapes. You're talking about the little digital tapes, right? There's a shop that was like that. But Probably a lot of super old stuff. Yeah, see, I guess that's it. This isn't compatible with most current setup. Yeah, you have to have a dedicated space to have a lot of that stuff. Yeah, you play it for a while and it's like, oh, that's cool that you have that, and then back on the shelf it goes. Sword Quest Waterworld. No, that was just regular Waterworld. My side A cassette guy or side B? Well, why not? Why not both? You've got the cassette, and the radios used to flip it over automatically. Exact same tapes you stick in your car radio. It's funny. I got a new car, and the one before it still had the cassette tape player, and I don't know if I ever used it. The car that we had before, we had a tape player in it, and it ate one of the tapes, so we ended up getting I had to put a new radio in it, and ever since then we were terrified to ever use the cassette tape deck in a tape deck. My car still has a tape deck. Yeah, it's such a cool thing, but at the same time, it's exactly with the video game system. It's a cool thing. Like, man, you got a tape deck, but you're not going to use it. You know what I mean? It's there taking up space. 8 tracks, anyone? Oh, yeah, I love the 8 tracks. 6 CD player, yes. Oh, classic. The one now has, it has a USB port dedicated for a player. Like, I have my iPod. I don't like it, though, because I have my iPod plugged into it, and it insists on putting everything in alphabetical order. So when you go to an album, the songs are not in album order, they're in alphabetical order, and it drives me nuts. So I don't use it. I have an aux jack, and I got the aux cable, so I can pass that aux cable when I need to. My car has a vinyl deck. Yeah, it's a spider. You just get a jukebox on the dash that plays 45s. I think our car has a CD player. Yeah, and then my car also has the slot for the CDs, and that's what I end up using. I wish I didn't have to, because I like having the iPod there, but it doesn't play any. It just feels like playing things in alphabetical order for no reason. Hello, the Death Right. The Death right? Yeah, the Death Writer. Okay, I'm in dark mode, and I'm in dark mode, and then your name is in the darker blue, so it's kind of hard to see the last part of it. But hello, the Death Writer. Pretty much everyone and their grandmother used crack copies back in the day. Ooh, excuse me, that was gross. Mainly because they were cheaper, they had no protection, and those yeah. You know what's funny? We worry about bootleg music and videos and stuff like that, but sometimes I think that stuff was more rampant than maybe we were ever aware of. I mean, I picked up. Give me 1 second here. I picked up an album, a record album. No, don't fall. Everything's gonna fall. Oh. See, we're professional stream here. We just get up and walk away from the stream. I picked this album up, and it is Volume 6, a collection of 16 original big hits. There we go. Okay. And it's like Mary Wells and the Marvelettes, Kim Weston, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder. It's a whole bunch of these things. And I looked up the name, and the name is a legit album. It's like a Motown album. It caught my attention because it is a color album, which I love stuff like color vinyl and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not a super hardcore vinyl guy, but it caught my eye. I love to look at stuff. I have a few albums with like cool artwork and stuff, so I like that. It is, hold on. Let me see if I can get this in here close enough. If somebody can tell me exactly what language I'm looking at here, but it is like I feel like it's Korean or Chinese actually, but it's like a bootleg record. And the timestamp, what is the timestamp on that? Let me see here.
You know me. You know me.
Yay, Mambo Foxtrot. Thank you. Mambo Foxtrot. So your name is MF. I like it. Yeah, it looks Chinese, right? It's like a Chinese bootleg of a Motown album, but then the regular version is a regular album. So I was like, this is actually kind of cooler. I love the red vinyl. That was one thing I always wanted. One vinyl I always wanted was the Master of Puppets Metallica picture album. I get a kick out of stuff like that. I think it's what I like, because I've talked before about how I like not intended, but I'll go with it. I love like disc art on video games. I love when they used to put a nice cool picture on it. That's why I love some Japanese PlayStation games, because they always have cool pictures on them instead of just a very basic looking disc. So that's why I like the red disc. So I loved stuff like the Experiment. I have no idea. That's the only thing. You need to take a pic and stick it on Google. Yeah, I know. I need to figure out how to get that all the way. But then for the hell of it, I bought this. I actually had up online. I bought, what is that? Styx. Kilroy was here. It's like, you know what? That's got some good stuff on there. And then these two, honestly, I got them because they're Journey and because LSD Dream Emulator. No, we'll just Experiment. We'll just listen to Rush and space out the whole time. Good evening, just a German dipshit. Hey, you know what? Instead of passing by, why don't you stop here for a minute and listen to us talk nonsense about nonsense? But I picked, actually, no, I like this one better. This Journey album. Oh, awesome. Yay, Death Rider. Thank you for the follow. So we got Wheel in the Sky, Something to Hide here. Feeling that feeling. And then I think the artwork is really cool on it. And then this artwork I think is awesome, man. Yeah, there we go. It's just the webcam doesn't do it enough justice, but it just looks incredible. And they're like excuse me, they're like $1 a piece. You know what I mean? You go to the Goodwill store and they're $1 a piece. That's why, you know, they don't take up much space. This is yesterday we talked about Dragon Ball and other stuff. Leftover flyers from Sega themselves. Just so you know, you already challenged. The word what? Poop. Oh, poop is totally fine. We can accept the word. We'll have to put that on some kind of list. Just so you know, Tim, we're not a hardcore. We're not like a hardcore PG or anything like that. I just generally don't curse very often. So, well, when I'm in a good mood, because this week was, whew, I can sit here and gripe about all of that, but this week I was cursing up a storm, man. It was all over the place. But yeah, that's a couple of the weird things that I picked up. This is a 12 to 15 stream. No, this is not a 12-year-old stream, Elements. Otherwise, I'd have Logan Paul posters everywhere. Which is okay. Some nonsense. Energy fog described by Stephen Hawking that appeared before the Big Bang would be particles living in the body of humans in a higher sphere. It could be. I think that, in all honesty, I think that fog that appeared before the Big Bang was the dissipated remains of the universe that came before it, which is how Galen the Traveler came to be. I'm talking about the film rating. Oh, PG. Okay. Logan Paul. Otherwise, oh God, I'm gonna get banned out of my own stream. You're on TV. Please do not say shit or bugger. Yeah. Poppycock. We've determined that poppycock is one of our favorite curse words here. I do want to talk about this Bandai Namco working on Metroid thing. I think that that is actually super interesting. And at the same time, I think it's interesting that we have a company name for it. Although I have a feeling that getting the company name was a mistake. Wait, what are we waiting? Bandai Metroid. I think that it's a little weird that we got the name, but I do think it was a mistake. I think that because there was some sort of weird issue where the name came out, like somebody had it on their link. What was it? Their LinkedIn profile, that they were working on a project with Bandai Namco for something. Yeah, LinkedIn and Eurogamer. Yeah, I find that very strange. I think the news of the developer coming out was just something that they had their hand forced and they had to do. You know, why is it always Europe that leaks these things? A nice start to stream to discuss this topic. Oh. Yeah, I find it strange and interesting. Has Bandai Namco worked? Did they do any other Metroid games? Because it would seem weird that for such a high profile Metroid game, because this is going to be a high profile Metroid game. A lot of people are talking. Yes, I don't think they ever did. A lot of people are talking about, you know, I've heard people talk about how this is neither company has. No, Ryan, I think they did confirm it now. I think that Bandai Namco did actually say that they're doing it now. I was watching Spawn Wave. I think his name is Spawn Wave. I think he did a thing this morning, and he said that there was documentation that they did announce that Bandai Namco is working on the Metroid game. Again, if you can find that, let me know one way or the other, because I know that it was speculation up until maybe yesterday and the day before, but I think today it was the first time I saw news that it was done. Oh my God, Samus and Soul Calibur, and she plays like Ivy with her whip sword. Yes, because Ivy was my girl. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see a giant fight with Pac-Man. To be fair, Metroid is not one of the Nintendo's. Yeah, and you know what, Mambo? I don't mind that a different company's working on it, because Retro Studios made some of the best ones. The AM2R was a fantastic game, and obviously that wasn't made by somebody from Nintendo. Now, I think that Metroid is one of those things that, in a way, it lends itself very well to the idea of other companies working on it and other companies sort of adding their own little spin on it. Because that's probably one of the biggest problems with Metroid, was that there's only so many ways you can do certain things. Elon's Musk. There's only so many things. And hello, by the way, Veloci. Especially nowadays. Nowadays, we've got so many great platformers. The idea of the side-scrolling platformer, the Metroidvania game, I'm never going to say it's been done into the ground, because I love it. But there was a lull of them, and now we don't have a lull of them. You know what I mean? If you want to go and there's new spins on it. There Celeste. I don't know if I would count Celeste, because Celeste was less about finding items and stuff. But the Mummy, that Mummy game that came out was like that. It was a side-scrolling platform. Dundaria is the new one that just came out with the new mechanic where she jumps from space to space. Yeah, Celeste is not a Metroidvania. Hey, Suave. But I think that there are a lot of platformers out there that satisfy different areas of the platform, because the Metroidvania is a platformer, is a kind of platformer on its own. It's a platform adventure, which is why I'm not a huge. I don't mind the term Metroidvania. When you say Metroidvania, we know what you're talking about, so I don't mind the term, but the term is kind of unnecessary, because side-scrolling platform adventure, that's the term. That's the term. That's what it should be called. You know, I like that we scaled it down to Metroidvania, but it's not necessary. You know, it's such a big genre, and and that's the thing. Elements, I don't think it is. I don't think it's a big genre because there are platform games that don't have the adventure element. You know, platform run and gun games no one would ever call Contra a Metroidvania because it is a side-scrolling platform game, but it's a run and gun. You know, there are no adventure elements. You're not finding items in order to advance to the next area. There are no RPG elements where your character grows in strength. I think Metroidvania is a very specific grouping. I think it is side-scrolling, platform, you know, jumping around and stuff, finding items. Sometimes your character has an experience meter. Sometimes they just grow more powerful from the items. I think it's convenient to have a word like Metroidvania because we get it. You know, again, when I say, yeah, Metroidvania has the backtracking element, which any good adventure game should have a backtracking element. There should be a map that you go through to get from place to place and you go back and forth. If it is not like that, it's just linear. Maybe this Metroid Prime game should break conventions like that. Yeah, Shadow, I would love to see that. I would love to see, and it's unnecessary, but it's easier to say. And exactly, Death Rider. That's my point, is that we didn't need a term for it, but it's nice to have a term. I'm not a huge fan when the term relates to specific games. You know, if you were to say FPS, if you say first person shooter, you know what we're talking about. What's the first game that comes to mind when somebody says, oh, I love playing first person shooters? For me, the first one that comes up is Call of Duty. Now, if we got into the habit of saying Call of Duty games, it takes away the value of all the other games because you're using a game, the name of a specific series in order to describe an entire genre. You know what I mean? And there are plenty of first-person games out there. Oh, wait. So I'm not a huge fan. That's why I think there should be another term for it. But I think at this point, Metroidvania is going to stick. That's just the way it is. Yeah, FPS is what is that? Call of the Duty? Battlefield, Rainbow Six, not Splatoon. You don't like the distinction in the subgenre, but no, I don't. Yeah, I like the distinction. I like the fact that, because not all platformers are Metroidvanias. You know, some of them are run and gun games. Some of them highlight because one of the best things about Metroid is, when it comes to the side-scrolling games and even the 3D games, is the atmosphere. One of the biggest things people talk about with Metroid games is the atmosphere, and that is part of it. You know, I love the atmosphere. I love the action. You know, the boss fights and stuff like that. Some games highlight more things than others. You know, there are some games out there that, you know, those games that they're the side-scrolling games. Maybe you have to find items and keys in order to get ahead, but there are no boss fights so much as there are a creepy atmosphere. You know what I mean? Game like Clock Tower for the Super Famicom. I wouldn't say that they're boss fights. I would say that it is an adventure game. You're searching for how to get in and out of places and how to advance through the game, but there are no boss fights. It's not an action game, you know, but it is. You probably wouldn't call it a platformer, even though it is in essence side-scrolling adventure type game. It's just not action oriented. Splatoon is a painting sim. Yeah, Splatoon is a Bob Ross simulator. Limbo is a good one. Limbo is a very good one, where that emphasizes atmosphere and platforming in the sense that you're side-scrolling, you're walking and you're running and jumping, but it's not so much of an action game as it is a puzzle game. Yeah, Limbo's more walk and puzzle. There we go. Yeah, it's hard to describe. Yeah, without action, it's hard to say that there are bosses. You know what I mean? So I don't mind when they come up with these distinctions. I think that one series, not series, one style of game that absolutely, hey, Mr. Sonic, it's a Mambo, that's awesome. Mambo Foxtrot says Splatoon is a rawsome up. I think that one genre that needs a name is first person adventure games. And again, I don't mind calling them just first person adventure games, but when we hear first person, the thing that we think of is shooters, and they're not. No, I don't like when people say that Metroid Prime is an FPS. It's not. It's definitely not. King's Quest. I think King's Quest were the series where they were first person, like Elder Scrolls, where they're first person games, but they're not shooters. Unless you consider using your bow and arrow all the time, turning it into a shooter. Adventure turn. See, and I think that's it. Yeah. Oh wait, so whether a game has atmosphere is irrelevant. No. See, that I don't think that that's irrelevant to it. I just think that we could always make them acronyms. I just think that the inclusion of certain things, because you can have a Metroidvania game that doesn't really focus on the atmosphere. It focuses on the puzzle solving and the item finding. You know what I mean? It has other elements, but when you say Metroidvania, to me, because I'm a Metroid fan, when you say Metroidvania, there are certain things I do expect, and atmosphere is one of them. So if you tell me, here's this Metroidvania game, and I'm not getting sucked into the atmosphere, I don't feel like it's the same kind of game, even though it technically is. You know, it's just when you hear the name and you trigger something. Again, if I said, here, play this Metroid, I love first person shooters. Here, play Metroid Prime. You probably won't like it, because if they'll tell you that that's a first person shooter, they are very wrong. Horror is a weird exception, and that it proves the rule, though. Horror is more of a film. See, horror. Here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing with horror. You know, I'll get into this with horror. Horror to me is its own genre. And you know what, Ryan, you actually said this too when you said like adventure is kind of a loose term. I find horror to be the same way. Horror is like a genre with a bunch of subgenres. You know, because there's horror, but then there's psychological horror. There's the gore horror, the stuff, you know, the Saw movies where it's just they say it's psychological, but it's a little psychological, but it's more, we're just going to show you people cutting their own hands off. You know, Final Destination. I don't think Final Destination was psychological horror. I think Final Destination was a series of Rube Goldberg machines on how to kill people. Kids, look up Rube Goldberg machines if you don't know what that is. And they were, the gimmick was fine at first. It was kind of interesting, and then by the fourth movie, you just don't care. By the fifth or sixth movie, at this point, you're just going because whatever. Horror doesn't really apply to gameplay, though. No, and that's my point, right? See, I do think horror applies to the gameplay, can apply to video games, but I do think at the same time it is a big genre, because there are some people might consider Doom a horror game. If you saw a movie that looked like Doom, you might call it a horror movie because it's all blood and guts and gore and everything. But there's not a lot of jump scares. There's not a lot of psychological horror. You know what I mean? It is a gore movie more than anything else, but a gore movie is typically considered a horror movie because horror encompasses so much. So like you said with adventure, where adventure it's such a broad term in a way. You know, when you say an adventure game, is it an overhead Zelda style game? Is it a platforming game? Is it a 3D game? It could really be anything. That's why I think most video games, most movies in a way require, see, movies are a little bit less, but I think a lot of them require multiple terms. Like, I like the term psychological horror, because normally what you're going to see with a psychological horror game is something that's going to mess with your head, at the same time that maybe you're going to see some violent, you're not going to see a Hello Kitty game, but you're going to see something that isn't just gross. Doom is not a psychological horror game. It's a horror game. It's a blood and guts gore game. But I think that's what's unique about video games, is that video games, because there is an interaction, as opposed to a movie or a TV show where you're just watching it, with a video game, you're interacting with it, so they can get at you in different ways. Doki Doki Literature Club is a good example of they call it a Mind F. It is I would consider that a psychological horror game, because right off the bat, it tries to tell you that it's one thing, and then it twists your mind. It forces your mind to, and there you go. That's a good definition to me for psychological horror. It kind of twists the way your mind is thinking as you're experiencing this. You're starting to question what it is that you're looking at. And a good movie does that. Movies like those Paranormal Activity movies, which were not as scary as I think a lot of people were hoping for. But they get you into that mindset. Rather than just waiting for the horrible thing to happen, your mind is starting to play tricks on you, and you're starting to look for the horrible things. When you watch those movies and you think, did that thing just move? It's the old cliche. And I think, because we were on genre tilting, whether atmosphere or horror have any bearing on it. And I think they do. And again, I think that it's unique because we are playing the game, as opposed to watching a 2-hour movie of them telling us what we're supposed to find scary, when we're supposed to be scared. When you play things like Silent Hill 2. Yeah, they lull you into a false sense of security. But you know what, Death Rider? I think a lot of people, especially the really, really hardcore horror fans, I think they don't fall for that anymore. There's the old cliche of you hear this, and they turn around, and there's nothing. A cup fell off a shelf. And then all of a sudden, there's a horrible thing to happen. That probably looked hilarious, by the way. I think especially the hardcore horror fans are at a point where that doesn't scare them anymore, because that was the easy way to suck people in to the false sense of security thing. That's the simple way to do it. So the psychological way is, The Ring was a good one. I think The Ring was a good one in the sense that it forced you, if it had the effect that it was supposed to, you were worried when you watched the movie and then the phone rang. You know what I mean? Like, it screwed with your head so much that there were these things. When I played Silent Hill 2, there was the white vans that were on the street, and then the things would crawl out from underneath the white vans. I remember for like 2 days after, I didn't walk past. I had a white van on the street that I lived on. I didn't walk past it because it scared the hell out of me so much. It made me kind of like, I know that there's nothing under there, but I'm not gonna screw around and try and test it. But who was phone? Because they tickle you and you lie. Yeah, I get that. Oh, how does saying something is horror tell me what kind of game? Oh, Ryan, it's just because once you say horror game, you're going to think dark atmosphere. You're going to think, as far as movies go, rated R content. You're going to see, and this is what I was saying before. You're either going to see scary or gory or psychological mind F. You know what I mean? You're going to see, because all of those, if you see any one of those movies that you classify as those kind of movies, the broad term is horror. Again, and that's why, like you said, it's a broad term. It doesn't tell you exactly what it is, But if I tell you I'm going to see a comedy movie and I tell you I'm going to see a horror movie, you have a broad sense of what I'm going to see from one or the other. There's no way you're going to come out of a horror movie and say that was hilarious, unless you're just really, really screwed up, or it was a really terrible horror movie and the scariest thing they showed you was the ravages of age. And that's the thing. And again, Ryan, I'm trying to drive this into your head that what I'm saying is that horror doesn't tell you exactly, but it gives you a kind of general idea of what you're looking for. As far as the gameplay, it really just gives you the atmosphere. I don't know. I think it does narrow it down a little bit. I think if somebody says that they're playing a horror game, I think it's easy to assume that they're not playing a racing game. They're not playing a puzzle game. I love that picture on Discord, by the way. Hey, Jeffersonia. Hang on one second. Sure, what's up?
I need to get clothes.
Oh, hold on. Give me 1 second, everybody. We'll be right back. We will pick this back up. Hang on. Here, we'll go back to the title card. We can start this all over again. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, ready? Yeah, mic is still on. Oh yeah, I got it. Thank you for that. But again, Ryan, again, that's my point, is that it is a broad term. It doesn't tell you what kind of game you're playing, which is why I don't like when people say things like horror. That was my point in all this. I don't like when people just say it's a horror game, because it doesn't tell me enough about what's going on. I need to hear it is a horror platformer, which I would have trouble. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I would have trouble of being super duper scared. Although, what's that game that just came out for the Switch? I think it was for the Switch. That is a horror, sort of like a clock tower. The one with the flashlight. The kid wakes up. He falls asleep in class when he wakes up. It's like a Silent Hill school. Yeah, and that's important, Suave, is that it's normally just the beginning. But yeah, I don't like when people, that's literally the point I was trying to, yeah, horror in and of itself doesn't signify the game, it just gives you a tone of the game. Yeah, and that's the point that I'm trying to make, just that I don't, but I'm saying that I think that we need more of that, where we need more description when they say, oh, I like horror games. That's kind of broad. I mean, it may be accurate. It may be that it could be a platformer. It could be any kind of game, as long as it has a horror element to it. That's kind of accurate. I mean, we do it with the fantasy element. Most people will play a fantasy version of a lot of different kinds of games just because it has a fantasy element to it. One word genres are usually, yeah. And you know what's funny? I'll tell you exactly where I learned this. I learned this. And it drives me crazy. I learned this. Lizard isn't here. Yeah, fantasy and sci-fi. I don't like those terms. I like the terms. I don't think that they are complete terms. I think when you say it's a sci-fi movie, I think most people automatically think it's an action movie, and not all sci-fi is action. There are a lot of sci-fi movies out there that are. Oh, there you go, Lizard. I didn't see you there. Hey, Mr. Stardust. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like that there's a suffix. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, the biggest one that I learned it with was anime. Anime is the biggest moment where I first started to realize No. When people say, "Oh, anime," so you like all that bloody stuff, or you like the girls with the boobs sticking out and everything. I think anime and animation in general. See, and that's a problem with America, because with America, we grew up where animation was treated as for kids, and the reality is it's not. Animation is as broad a term as live action. Could you imagine? Like, I watch a lot of anime. What do you watch? I watch a lot of live action. What the hell does that even mean? that doesn't mean anything. You could spend all day watching the Weather Channel and you watch live action television. I could spend all day watching anime and animated infomercials of travel destinations and not watch anything else and be able to tell people I watch anime. The West is hard. Yeah, I don't like it. It's not. It's a form of media. It is the other thing to live action. So I don't like it. And I need more description. And I used to go, and it was always the best, because you'd go to like the videos in the old days. You go to the video stores and then you go to animation. And of course, animation back then, it was full of cartoon DVDs and VHS tapes. And then you find Cool World. I don't want to alarm you, but children's animation and Cool World did not mix. They were not the same thing. And those were some of the first times. But when I finally started watching anime, can we not with Cool World? Our tastes are drastic. Yeah, and that's exactly it. What is Cool World? Suave. Cool World is an adult. I believe it was R-rated. It was an R-rated Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It was animation mixed with live action. I thought the movie itself was actually relatively okay. 6 out of 10. I'm not rushing out and buying a special edition of it, but if it was on, I'd watch it. But it was not a children's movie. But you'd go to the video store, and because it had animation in it, it was in the cartoon section. You grab you'd get that, and you'd get your crappy Captain America cartoon. It's like, these are not the same thing. These shouldn't be on the same shelf. I'm not even entirely sure they should be in the same store. It's definitely not aimed at children. Yeah. It's a movie with Brad Pitt. Oh no, you know what just happened recently? I was at the Goodwill store, and they had the comics and the kids books and everything. Inside the kids books, 4 volumes of yaoi. Is it yaoi? Manga. And I opened it up, and sure enough, I saw some stuff. So what did I do? I put it right back in the kids section to open up some minds. Hentai next to Rugrats. Ironically, hentai also, Rugrats could also be the name of a hentai. I love when secondhand bookshops do that. Yeah, and I remember when I first started watching anime, there was a lot. I watched a lot of the action stuff. I watched the usual stuff. I watched. There was some old stuff, like I watched Star Blazers when that was out, but I didn't know the difference between Japanese anime and Western animation. So it was just a cartoon. I was 6-7 years old. And then I watched like Ghost in the Shell and Ninja Scroll and Akira. I got my hands on as much as I could. But because of the people that I had access to and the access to anime that they had, it was usually action. When I really started to get into anime and I started to explore the rest of the anime world, that was the first time that I really, really started to realize anime is it's a broad term. It is as broad as live action. There is so much more. And what anime does that I think is very unique is that anime crosses a lot of those boundaries. When you watch these animations with, they have space battles and they have all of these things going on, and they're shooting and characters are dying, but there's, at the heart of it all, there's a love story. That is unusual to me. You know, Macross, anime is not a genre. Macross, if I happen to be saying it, it's just coming out by accident. Space Battleship Yamato. Macross is a big one for me. Macross Plus is one that I like to direct people to, because I like for them to see the sci-fi-ness of it all. You know, there's the technology aspect of it all, and there's all this other stuff going on. But at the heart of that movie, at the heart of that OVA, the movie itself is a love story. For anybody that's never seen it, what happens in, what's with all the Macross tweets going on today? For what's going on in Macross Plus specifically, there are 3 characters. There's the female, and then there's the 2 guys, and they meet after all these years. They used to be childhood friends, and you can tell that something happened, but you're not really sure what's going on. And the woman works as a PR director. She's like PR person for Sharon Apple, who is a virtual idol. And there's the sci-fi element, which is that obviously it's all futuristic and everything. It's one of the sci-fi elements is that, and a spoiler for anybody who is planning on watching it, but it's been out forever. She is not any kind of producer or PR person or anything. What happens is they hook her up to Sharon Apple, to the mainframe, and her emotions drive the performance. The problem is that she now encounters these 2 people who she loves them both. And those emotions bleed into Sharon Apple. So Sharon Apple becomes the conduit for what she's feeling inside, but refuses to admit. But Sharon Apple has so much power and control that she exhibits it in extraordinary ways. So at the heart of everything is a love story. It's Macross, so it's probably just the same damn thing over and over again. Yeah, and then when you watch it, I remember watching it thinking, oh, this is like a cool action movie. You know, it's Macross, it's Japanese Robotech, and I don't know, I was gonna drive somebody crazy with that one. What is that? I can't. I watched it and I thought, this is cool action, like this is interesting, and then I really, really paid attention to what was going on, and it hit me that, oh, this is a love story. It's possible to tell, and this is what I like about anime. Anime makes it possible to cross these boundaries, because a Western or any live action romance movie has the same exact settings. There's the same exact things going on, and they don't want to put any kind of other setting into it. They don't want to put any kind of, they don't want to mix genres, because they don't want people to be confused. They don't want people to go to the movies and expect a sci-fi movie and it's a love story, or vice versa. But anime, you get that, and I like that. That's one of the reasons I love it so much. Fuck Robotrek. You love Robotrek. Everybody loves Robotrek. Oh man, everybody loves Robotrek. How do you feel? Well, you know what? But that's just sort of the same thing, where there needs to be more specific terms, or not even more specific terms. We need to get into the habit of saying things more specifically, and I think that's something that's important to focus on. And that whole conversation was almost an hour, and it super got away from us. But we love doing that. That's what we're here for. We are not the most organized here, and I like that. I'd rather just hang around and shoot the stuff with everybody. Shoot the stuff with Silver. What do we think? No? We're still workshopping some of these names here. So how about Silver Speaks? I like Silver Speaks. We'll call the show the SS. Ooh, no. Okay, no, we're not. Okay, no, we're not doing that one either. But here we'll move on a little bit. Oh wow, all of that started from a Metroid conversation. Death Rider, how do you feel about D&D and other tabletop RPGs? Silverline, Uncle Silver and Chill. Plus Ultra. I like tabletop gaming. I like the idea of playing D&D. You're new here, Rider. Death Rider. I generally come up with this from time to time where Silver and Chill. Ooh, I kind of like that. I love the idea of playing them. I just don't have people to play them with, and that's kind of my problem. I love the concept of D&D, that it can be as creative as you. Hey, that's actually does kind of fit into the to the conversation here. That with D&D you can create. D&D is typically a fantasy setting. Everybody knows that it's a fantasy setting. You have typical D&D characters and classes. You have typical D&D monsters. The gelatin. What is it? The gelatinous cube. Is that the one? The dissolving cube. The beholders. You have the kobolds. You have these generic things. But the game has, excuse me, the game itself has a specific structure that can lend itself to other genres. So you see the idea of people doing Pokemon and Star Wars D&D. You're blending these different atmospheres, and it works. It's a great way to meld them, and it works as well as your imagination makes it work. And I like that. I just don't have the people to play it with. Board games are just a pain to set up, get everyone on the same schedule. Yeah, and Ryan, that's my biggest problem, is that I don't have anybody to play it with. I don't have a set group of people. I don't have an organization, an organizational system that says, people have, it drives me, it's so weird that people have, that there are grown people that every Tuesday night can have poker night. It's so weird to me that that's possible. And it's weird to me considering that I have a schedule for streaming, and that 3 hours a day, 3 days a week could easily be filled with D&D, but getting 5 and 6 other people to also have that schedule, it seems impossible. I'm able to stream because it's just me here. I love it when you guys show up, but if 0 people were viewing, I'd probably still be streaming. Because I enjoy it that much. There's always homebrew. It also, elements, you know what, though? You say it depends on the DM. It depends on everybody. The problem when you mix that many people is that it depends on everybody, because you could have a DM. Listen, you could have a DM that you go to his house and he's got smoke machines and lighting effects and sound effects and mixers and music and all kinds of stuff. And if you have 5 people that sit around and do this, I walk into the room, I look around, I roll perception. If you have 5 or 6 people that are going to do that, there's no saving that game for the DM. The bottom line is you're mixing human beings and their level of creativity and their boring D&D ASMR is my kink. Then I won't shame you. But you're mixing people, and that's what it is, and it just, and Ryan, I get it. I'm the same way, where I think that's one of the reasons people don't like just tabletop gaming in general. I mean, we play, Beth and I would play, it's called, Dragonology. This game called we play Ticket to Ride. Bits, woo, hey, homecoming. We play Ticket to Ride, and we play Dragonology, and they're fun games. But they are PC games, not PC as in like politically correct or like personal computer. PEICEY. There's so many little things. It's like setting up Monopoly times 10. There's so many little things that you have to do and set up, and then when the game is over, you have to put it all away. You know, and I think that if anything is probably the biggest issue with playing PC games when everybody got offended when I started complaining about PC games. But it's really depends on people's mood. They could be having and that hurts things for tables. And you know what, Ryan? That hurts things for anything where you're in Warcraft. If you play Warcraft and it's raid night and 3 people in the raid have had horrible days and don't even feel like being there, you're probably not going to have a good raid night. You know, Final Fantasy 14. You are not going to have a good time if half the people in your group had terrible days. If it's a Friday afternoon and they just finished working a full busy week and they just don't have the energy to do it. I mean, for anybody out there who plays MMOs, how many times have you been scheduled to do organized things and they canceled or you showed up and the whole thing got canceled after an hour because 6 out of 10 people didn't show up? You know, it always happens. It's going to happen whenever you put people into the mix and require them to do certain things, to be there at a certain time, to be in a certain kind of mood. And the mood is probably the bigger one. Yeah, Squeak. And you just got to have a good attitude about it. You know, sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. Sometimes it doesn't. You need to have a good mood. You need to have a good mood to play all of these games. Whenever that's happened often to Johnny. I imagine it could have. I think that's why. I think it matters. I think it happens to everybody. You know, we had people they didn't want to lead raid groups because leading a raid group 30% of the time meant, actually no, I'd say about 20% of the time it meant canceling the raid. And probably another 20-30% of the time it meant spending the first half hour looking to fill the slots of the people that didn't show up regularly. It was almost uncommon for us to have a raid scheduled to start at 8 and for us to be in that dungeon attacking things at 8 o'clock. People are trolling free. That's, you know what though, that's going to happen when popular streamers and popular people, especially now, that's going to happen when popular people people are aware of what guild they're in. They're aware of what server they're on. The servers, during my Warcraft days, there were a couple of top tier raid groups. I think Vodka was one of them. These were the guys that the raid came out Tuesday and went live Tuesday at 8 a.m. or 1 p.m. and because after server maintenance. And by 4 p.m., they had downed half the raid, if not all of it. You know, these were the world first guilds. Getting onto their servers was difficult because their servers were overloaded with people who wanted to be on the same server as them. Yeah, so I imagine that's going to happen. I'm coming to steal that poster behind you. Which one? Is it the Zelda one? Or the Splatoon one? That's why I hate being responsible for things like that, because if I'm not in the mood, I'm going to flake out. Yeah, Elements. I did it for about a year and I didn't like it. I did not like it at all. That's why he rebranded the free company. Oh, okay. See, yeah, you just kind of have to do that, man. I know that it's fun to have this group and to have people know what's going on, but I would stay anonymous for as long as possible on that kind of, especially to have that kind of notoriety. You know, you guys know me, you stop here and you listen, but let's face it, I could walk around a convention and no one's going to recognize me. You know, so I don't worry about that. No one recognizes my characters online or anything like that. Makes total sense. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you know, it kind of happens. But yeah, as far as the D&D thing goes, I would love to play some D&D. And I see that people keep saying to play online, and I would like to give that a try. I don't know. I feel like as ironic as this sounds, I feel like the personal social interaction, the in-person interaction is an element to the game that I also want to experience. It's sort of like the people who it's time for college and they insist on going away to college. They want to get the full college experience, which includes living at the dorm and being away from home, because that separation from home is part of the experience. D&D's kind of like that, where I would like to try it, and I don't mind the idea of trying it online, but I want to try it in person. I want to experience what it's like to sit in the room with people, to look at them, to stare someone in the eye who has the nerve to steal my stuff and roll a 20 when he does it. People keep trying to pick on me. I'll be a low level. People. Death Rider. I used to stay away from the PvP servers because of that. They challenge you. I just leave. I would have people on ignore. It wouldn't really matter. Indigo, we're not too far off. I wake up at 5 to work at 5:45. And then yesterday I woke up at 3:30 because they wanted us there at 4, and that was a waste of time. Yeah. I hate PvP. So yeah, I avoid PvP servers. I don't like it. It sounds like a good idea. You know, it seems fun, and at the same time, when you're trying to get off the ground and someone's running and killing you, that doesn't seem fun to me. SGG. The Super Gaming guys. Plus Uncle D&D stream. Oh god. Dude, that'd be kind of cool. If Sean was here, I'd hire him. I'd ask him if he could join us. It doesn't like him. Now, is that Squeak? Is that 4 people plus the DM, or is that the DM and 3 other players? Because the DM and 3 other players sounds like a small game. Or is it just that they don't like to? I guess the fewer people, the fewer there is to manage in the game. But I don't know. I think that's the idea. The DM and 3 people. I've watched D&D streams and videos, and I've never seen a group that small. I think the smallest I've ever seen was 4. I think D&D Price is Right. Yeah, I love D&D Price. See, D&D Price is Right actually sounds pretty cool because the games are just different ways to roll the dice. And of course now I see the dice. I see the die, the 20-sided. What is it? It's it's not a dodecahedron? I think isn't that a 10? Or is it? No, it is. It's dodecahedron. I think it's a 20-sided die. 20-sided die. It's a D20. I see that, and hey, Ziego, stupid Skyrim, because now I see the post of every time somebody has dodecahedron, and every time somebody has the shape, it just says like another hand touches the beacon, and like they're on their way to the Temple of Meridia. So now that's all I think of when I see that. So I'm split between every time I see it, it's like, is it D&D or is it a D&D gag or is it a Skyrim gag? I don't know. But yeah, I think that would actually work. The Unexpectables at the table, and 3 plus the DM. Okay. I really want to experience it. I want to. I always look in the book section of the Goodwill store. One time I went, and I'm kicking myself to this day for not getting it, but I think it was 4th edition. The one time I went, and they had it was $20, and it was in the case, and it was a set of books. It was the Player's Guide. It might have been 5th edition. It was the Player's Guide, the Monster Guide, and the DM Guide for $20. And I to this day I think I really should have bought that. Just that I should have bought. I could have bought that and sold it for $25, and that would have been fine. It's D&D, but you use a magic 8-ball instead. Well, I like that. Back in my our dice had 6 faces on it, and we had vinyl deck, and we had to walk. We had to walk 10 miles in the snow to get to our dice. $20 for all I know. Oh, yeah, we have a comic book shop but they have everything at face value. So the player's guide, I think, is 50 or 60 or something like that. The prices on those books are insane. Very gamey, which I like the sound. People say, you know what? I wonder if it's just that at this point, the 5th edition just has more stuff, and people are just used to the more stuff. Back in my day, we had to push our car. Oh, way to go, Fred Flintstone. We ran. What? Why would you even take the car? I just bought one restaurant. Oh my god. Which one what did you buy? You had to have bought the player's manual, right? Because the player's handbook should be the first thing that you buy. Really, see, the first thing I bought is the starting edition, which is the Lost Mines of Phandelver. And then it's all pre-made characters and stuff. You know what, Death Rider? I wanted to buy the monster manual just because I like the monsters. I like some of the way they look. One of the stores that I go to, they sell the figurines. It's like blind box figurines that are icons of the realm, and it's all the iconic monsters and stuff, but they're blind. So what they also sell is the opened ones, but for different prices. And then, some of them are a little cheaper than the blind boxes, and then a couple, the real high-end ones or the high-end demand ones are more expensive. I think they're 18 and 20. I want, for no reason whatsoever, I love the idea of the gelatinous cube. I think it's the cube, and the cube figure is it looks like a big block of ice for us. Like it's about, I want to say it's about this big. But it's a gelatinous cube, but then inside is a dissolved skeleton, and I love it. You had to go to Ryan. You may want to revisit how that's spelled there. Yeah, you got Ryan. You got one game for that weekend. That was it. You went for Friday night. You guys got 3 movies and a game. And that was it. That was your game for the weekend. Back in my day, Blockbuster existed. We had West Coast Video, so how about that? And we had Video Update. Video Update was fantastic. Not because it was a good video store, but because when they closed, they sold all their stuff. And I got a couple of gems from them. We also had a place called Farmore, which was a sort of convenience store type. It was like a giant convenience store, but they also had a video rental place in it. They sold out their stuff, and that's where I got my boxed Mega Man 3 and 4 and G.I. Joe, the Atlantis Factor, and and I think my Ultima Exodus. I think my Ultima Exodus came from there. Back in my day, pen and paper. Well, that's how D&D got their start, was just pen and paper. Oh, Galaxy Video. I think, Ryan, every town had a Galaxy, because we had a Galaxy Video in Philly. I think every town had a Galaxy Video. And it wasn't a chain place. It was like a privately owned place. It's just like at least one person in every city had the idea to call their store Galaxy. Hollywood Video. Yeah, we had a Hollywood Video. Back in my day, I wore diapers because I'm only 17. With 30 minutes of gameplay, and we liked it. Well, you know what, Squeak? That's always my joke with people with microtransactions. They complain about the idea of microtransactions, and I always say, yeah, could you imagine having to put 25 cents into a machine every time you wanted to press start? I always sort of like it's a joke because it's you were there for the experience. You were there to hang out at the arcade, but it's always like that's the original microtransaction. Imagine having to put 25 cents into the machine. You got it for free. You were able to play it. You had access to it for free, but you had to pay 25 cents every time you press start. Microtransaction issue. Yeah, and that's why it's always a joke. Like, it's not like you paid $60 to touch the arcade machine and then 25 cents every time you played. But I always think of it like that's like the original microtransaction. That's really where it got itself started. Where you put in more credits while you're playing to get more missiles. Well, Mambo, that was a big thing with the hardcore arcade players, was that back then you played your game, and when you ran out of lives, your game ended. And if you put in another quarter, you had to start back from the beginning. So the introduction of putting in another quarter to continue where you left off, some of the most hardcore arcade players will say that they're not a big fan of that, because that is the moment when it became less about your skill and more about how much money you had. And doesn't that sound incredibly familiar? Smart Cookies broke into the back and set the dip switches to free. Yeah, it's interesting. I guess in a way, you know what's funny? I just said that, and it's like, hey, Aqua Sakura, that is kind of an interesting sort of parallel. The first time I heard that the hardcore arcade people didn't like when that started, because that was what they thought, and that's kind of what we think now. We call them pay to win. We call them games that. Any game that allows you to power up your character by inserting your credit card number, most people will agree is an unfair system of gameplay. Or they'll say, fine, go ahead, I won't play it. If you want to have a game, that's why the whole thing with the Star Wars Battlefront where you're buying loot boxes and stuff, go ahead. Just do it. I have a million other games to play that don't cost me anything but the price of purchase. So go ahead and do what you want to do. Let the people who have disposable income throw their money at this game when they really could be playing some other stuff. Most arcade games are single player or co-op. Money doesn't affect inherently in terms of for the versus stuff. But they remember the games like Gauntlet. I mean, the early one and the newer one, when you play Donkey Kong, when you play Pac-Man, you couldn't put in another quarter and continue where you were. You put in a quarter and you played as far as you could. When you ran out of lives, the game was over. So then you had games like Donkey Kong, like Gauntlet, where you put more money. Hell, the Nintendo arcade, the Play Choice 10 machines. The Play Choice 10 machine would literally add more time based on how many quarters you put in. If the microtransactions take off in games. Oh, yeah. And believe me, Ryan, I don't like the idea of it, but I don't think that it's bad every once in a while, but I think it'll balance itself out. I think that if more companies start to really do it, and if they try and make it play to win, I think they're going to notice very quickly that people don't bother playing it. And I think that's sort of where we are now, in a sense, where, because a lot of games have microtransactions and people play the hell out of them. And the reason they do that is because it's voluntary. It's not pay to win. Getting different outfits and different things that just look different, they're microtransactions, but they don't offer anything to the gameplay, and it doesn't take anything away from the gameplay to not have it. And companies will shove it into as much as, they will. And my issue, and again, my issue isn't microtransactions. It is microtransactions used to pay to win. That's what I have a problem with. I don't care how many costumes you throw into a game and charge $1 a piece for. I really don't. You can throw in whatever you want. When you tell me that one of those costumes makes my character stronger or faster, That's where I've got a problem. Yeah, and again, I don't, but you know what, Ryan? Were the extra costumes, for me, and this is my opinion, were they really that important? You know what I mean? Like, it feels like extra content, but it was really just a carrot to chase for nothing other than aesthetics. I very rarely did I play a game where, and the funny thing is, as far as costumes go, they didn't even need to be unlocked. Remember, games like Street Fighter and Marvel Superheroes and stuff, all it was you hit a different button and you got a different color costume. So we didn't even have to unlock it. But I never played a game that I needed the other costumes. Holding behind a paywall and that. I'm gonna say something here that's gonna sound kind of scummy. Companies are always gonna try and make their money. They always are, and I hate to say it, but it is their prerogative to do that. If they want to have a gimmick to make money, it's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but that is what they're going to do. But all I demand, really, I guess I should say, all I demand is that you make the gimmick blatantly a gimmick. I don't need to, I don't care if you have 100 different costumes that cost $1 a piece. I don't. When it stops because that's a gimmick. That is a money gimmick. It's a cash grab. When you tell me that I need to pay to buy characters, that's where I start to have a problem. When you tell me that I need to pay to unlock moves or stuff like, you know what I mean? That's where I start getting to the point of, okay, now what you're doing is you're withholding significant portions of the game and making me pay more on top of the $60 that I originally spent. I have a problem with that. All the other stuff, as long as it feels like, here, okay, I got a good one for you. Prerogative, extra charge be more worthwhile stuff. Yeah, see, I have a problem with. I'll tell you what, I'm not a huge fan of is downloadable stories, scenarios and stuff. That's where you're starting to become a little bit like when Zelda happened, when Breath of the Wild happened, and they immediately announced that there was going to be DLC. People were in an uproar. Oh, you're locking away half the game. Here goes Nintendo doing what everybody else does. But in actuality, what we got was a full game, and then there was paid DLC later. I'm not a huge fan of that. That's where you start to hit that gray area for me, because if you had the idea for paid DLC from the start, did you break it off of the original story in order to sell it to me? That's where I start to get into that gray. Who was the one? It was Capcom. It was. I think it was a Marvel Capcom game or something. Where they had day one DLC. It was day one DLC, and the day one DLC included characters. Really? You very, very obviously had this entire game completed, then purposely removed elements of it to sell them to me at the exact same time that I bought them, that I bought the game. Now we've got a problem. Marvel vs. Capcom 3. On the opposite, I'd rather have a full game and have the DLC be more of that than just pointless little trinkets. Yeah, later on down the line, I have no problem with it. I had a little bit, like I said, I had a little bit of an issue when Zelda did it, because I didn't want it to feel like you had this game complete. When Johnny told me a few years ago, I think it was at MomoCon that he went to, and the guy had the Mega Man 7. It was either Mega Man 7 or Mega Man X3 for $250, and then the box right next to it for $200. Yeah, that is the perfect analogy to that is the perfect analogy to all of this is that there's a difference between I have this game and then later on I made a box for it, or I made the box in the game and I'm selling to you separately. I'm talking about more of the pie. Not finishing the pie. Yeah, and Ryan, that's my thing is that I don't like selling me finishing the pie. You know, I don't like that you gave me the bottom and the filling, and you're selling me the layer on top. It should have gotten the whole pie, and then later on you should have sold me the ice cream. You know, if you wanted to. Yeah, that's what I don't like. That's why I don't like it when they do stuff like that. Oh man, see, these damn companies get us all worked up. Doesn't bother me because I interpret it as extra red. Yeah, and that's a good way to put it, Spider. If I interpret it as extra, rather the extra charges be more of the pie than the pointless little try. Oh yeah, see you Ryan, you want the ice cream and don't want to have to pay for the sprinkles. I think that might be a good way to put that. So you interpreted Spider, I think it was possible. I unfortunately, even if games like Mass Effect 2 and 3 were I felt like were complete games, and any DLC felt like extra. Skyrim was a complete game and any DLC felt like extra. Breath of the Wild felt like a full game, and then there was the DLC. The DLC felt extra, but it does kind of set off an alarm in my head when you told me not long after the game released that there was going to be DLC, because that's where I do start to question, was it extra or was it built in? And again, the Zelda stuff felt like extra, so it works for me. But the Marvel vs. Capcom stuff did not feel like extra. It felt like the rest of the game. It felt like you sold me a $100 game for $60 plus $40. That's where I start to disagree significantly with DLC. Comes down to a matter of what you perceive as full. Yeah, because you could get... I mean, some people would say... Yeah, and I absolutely get that. There is an element into that, because there is the idea of, you know, what constitutes a full game. You know, do you get a full story? Do you get for as far as story goes, for a full game, what I interpret as a full game, regardless of length, is seeing the primary story through to the end. If you give me DLC that expands more on the characters, again, Breath of the Wild, that's clearly DLC. That is clearly extra content. If you tell me that I can get all of these things, and I can do all of this, and I can defeat Ganon, or I can get to the castle, and then I have to download DLC for when Ganon gets released. Come on. That's you made it impossible for me to resolve the story at first. That doesn't work. What is this? I'm going back and reading some chat. So Fighter Z, I'm calling it Fighter Z and not Fighter Z. Fighter Z is okay, but cross tag battle is a no-go. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the cross tag battle is. I haven't looked into it. As a second pie, something equivalent. Yeah, it's a little small pie that that's why I said it's like the ice cream. You know, it complements it very well. If you showed up late, if you showed up late, it looks like a full meal. But in reality, you had the pie first and the ice cream later. You know, but it seems either one seems decently decently fulfilling. Yeah, the concept of the bike. Yeah, and let's make it clear. I'm saying that the Zelda Breath of the Wild DLC felt like extra content. Yeah, I'm just using it to say that, you know, if I felt like the character development that we got from the DLC was necessary to the story, it would feel a little bit more like you kind of separated this from the rest of the game, because Zelda Breath of the Wild story was a little hollow, but I did feel like there was resolution there. Episodic games like The Walking Dead, that's an interesting, you know, Mr. Stardust, that's interesting, because that does enter a sort of strange area, but I do think that those games are written as they go. I don't think it's one giant story that's broken up. I also think that because those games are usually cheaper, right? Aren't they usually like 10 and 15 bucks per episode? You know, if at the end of, I go by the $60 gauge at this point. At this point, we're at the $60 gauge, where that is the typical price for a new game. If you give me 6 episodes of 5 hours of gameplay each for $10 at a time, I'm not getting DLC. I'm getting an episodic release of something that in the end cost me $60. Cost me the same thing as everybody else. Sometimes maybe it goes more. The good thing about those is that if by the second episode you're just not feeling it, you don't have to pay the rest of the $40. You know, you can just stop playing the game then. Yeah, content already on a disc. Outrageous to me. I think that it's outrageous. Telltale's more you get, yeah. Yeah, it's you play it as you go, and you have the option to stop playing it. You know, you have the option after the second or third story to say, you know what, I paid $20, $30. I'm just not feeling this story. I'm not going to bother anymore. And it gives you the option to do that. So I kind of like that. Telltale's making us pay more for video games. So you know what, Chips? It's kind of like in the old anime days where we didn't have access to things like Crunchyroll, so you just had to go buy the DVD every time it came out. Although the DVDs were ridiculously expensive back then, so that's a horrible analogy. It was like $20 for 4 episodes on a DVD. Give me a break. Injustice 2 did it good where there's paid DLC, but none of it were the armor pieces that upgraded. Yeah, that's it. That's fine. That's all cosmetic. Just trying to remember when he used to sell the recent Hitman games that were episode. Oh, okay. I only brought a Telltale example because you brought up an example of having to wait for the beat. Oh, yeah. And see, that's something that, and again, but the idea of beat Ganon, the idea of selling me that content later is ridiculous, because that's the obvious conclusion. You know what I mean? Like you power up your characters because there's a monster to fight at the end, and you blatantly cut the monster out of the game to sell it to me later. But when you have these stories like these Telltale games, the stories aren't even written at the time that the previous versions come out, or the previous versions feel like whole stories on their own. You know, you're in that episode, you're getting plenty of experiences, you're getting plenty of story, but later on they give you new stories. You know, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of hard to explain. $24.99 for 3 episodes. Yeah, I remember those days. God, they were terrible. What do we got? I'm trying not to let it get too far down. Even that, and not even Blu-ray is still crazy. It depends, because I was just Chips. Not even the Blu-ray DVDs are still crazy expensive. I was just at Best Buy, and they had, I don't know if it was on sale or something, but they had My Hero Academia season 1 for $20, I think, which is not, I mean, you gotta understand, back in the old days, a 12 episode anime was split into 4 DVDs, and they were each $25 and $30. That's what I'm talking about. You know, now we're getting, I can buy, and this, I know that it's not anime. I know that it's not. But I can go and get the entire series of Legend of Korra. And I think that's $40. That's not awful. That's really not bad. How many episodes per GBA cartridge? And splitting the games up like that. Yeah. Oh God, the Japanese prices are even worse. Ugh. That's probably why they read so much manga. It's just easier. Bubblegum Crisis is split into 3 and goes for $20 a pop. Yeah, see, that's, come on, man. I know you're, I know you're milking. And again, like we said earlier, like I know as a company you have, it's your prerogative to try and make money, but damn, you don't have to fleece us. We want this content. We want to pay for it. You don't have to fleece us for it. Funimation's on the low end of pricing, but they're also low quality. Yeah, you'll get average stuff. That's the case with Pat Laborer. 100 to get 4 or 5 Blu-ray. Yeah, see, that's... And finding films is a pain. Things are better now with DVDs and Blu-rays as they seem to be released in collections. Yeah, they're doing a lot more collections. They're doing a lot of season collections. So that's good. The prices are still a little up there depending on what you buy and where you buy it. And some DVD box sets can only be... Wow, really? I mean, the Best Buy of all places that I was just at today, they had Your Name on, I think it was just DVD. And I think it was $15 or $20. It's not bad. That's a feature movie. And a new movie at that. Japan loves the money. Yeah, because everything is... I always get the impression that everything is much more expensive over there in Japan as compared to the way you compare pricing to median income. I always get the impression that things are a lot more expensive over there. $150 Gurren Lagann set. Wow. That seems like a lot. Lizard, with a Netflix account and a VHS recorder, you can have all the Gurren Lagann you want. I remember wanting to buy an anime box set to support the animation studio. It was 6 episodes for $100. Yeah, I have the Tenchi Universe, the Pioneer set. And that's 13 episodes, and I see that go for $100. The yen is super weak, no one has any money, which is why they stay home and watch TV or online stuff. Yeah, that's it. Where the hell are you buying these DVDs? VHS. I was waiting to see who would respond to my VHS comment. You just make tapes all day. I remember renting things from Blockbuster was usually so scratched. Yeah, I DVDs and stuff. I was very reluctant to rent. I'll admit I was the guy, and I still am the guy when I buy used DVDs. Can I check the disc? I'm still that guy. But when I would rent movies too, I was that, because it was a drive to go over to the video store, so I didn't want to have to come back. I didn't want to have to come back because I got 3/4 of the way through the movie, and all of a sudden, right before they told me who the killer was, my DVD scratched. Tenchi Universe. Oh, no problem, Ryan. Have a good one, and good luck. I'm not sure if you heard about the job yet. The last time I saw one was mid-2000s at a dollar store. Oh, what's that? Tenchi? Bootleg DVDs. No, I see bootleg DVDs all the time at the Goodwill store. They always have them at the Goodwill store. I mean, we used to have guys that would walk around on the L and on the train, I should say. Oh no, recordable tapes. Oh God, yeah. But we'd have guys walk around that had, I got movies. I got the new movies. And they walk around like, no, you don't have the new movies. You have bootlegs. Get away from me. And they clean the disc right before you. Oh, okay. Hardcore fans use Laserdisc. Experiment. I had a chance to buy a Laserdisc player from the Goodwill store last year. They got a Laserdisc player traded in or donated in, and a stack of movies. But it was just, I guess they knew what they had. So the player, I think, was $150 or $200, and then the movies were 10 or 15 a piece. The amount of VHS recording of anything. Oh my God, I have boxes of VHS tapes in the basement of shows that I recorded. Simpsons. I think I have the first few seasons of Simpsons on VHS that I recorded from the television. Hell, I had a little TV that I used to use to record that I don't know what it had in it, but it knew how to skip the commercials. Which I enjoyed, and at the same time I don't, because sometimes I like the commercials. The best was depending on who you got your anime from. When we go to New York and we buy the bags of anime, we come out with paper bags full of bootleg VHS. Sometimes, depending on where they got it from, it would still have the Japanese commercials on the recording, and so we'd watch. I always remember Japanese Frosted Flake commercials and stuff. Well, bootleg G Gundam DVDs. Oh yes, you have bootleg. Do you remember Love DVD? Oh. On my old VHS, and I don't have a VHS player anymore. I want to get one just so that I can go back and watch these old videos and see some of these commercials. I probably have Nintendo commercials and stuff, and I really want to try. I really want to go through my stuff and see what's there. Oh, you digitize them and recycle? I haven't done any of that yet. I mean, it's all, like I said, it's all stuff recorded from TV. I remember Love Film. I wanted to record some stuff before we get rid of our cable box. Oh, I wouldn't record. You had to do something. You had to route the cable box through. You had to route I had my cable box routed through my VCR, so I had to turn the VCR on in order to watch cable. And then if I wanted to record something that was on cable, I had to, I would program my VCR to record it when I wasn't home, and then I had to leave I could turn my TV off, but I had to leave my cable box on. And then that was how I recorded shows that way. American commercials are a lot more like Japanese commercials now. Yeah, they try and be a little wild. Game Center. When they started doing those crazy Old Spice commercials with Terry Crews, they always reminded me of the wild Japanese commercials where everybody's yelling and screaming. And I used to get such a kick out of those commercials just for that. Japanese Ronald McGeiger. Well, one commercial that stands out recently is the Attack on Titan Subaru commercial. I think that's great. I would love to see some of that in the U.S. Why can't consumers own anime? It's because there's not much demand to own the anime, given people generally prefer reading and collectible merchandise. Oh, okay. You're talking about in Japan? Only took him 1 billion years. It was same with the Skittles ads. Oh no, now that's retro now. Terry Crews is a national treasure. I agree. I agree with that. Terry Crews is a national treasure, and if you want to see a great version of him, go watch a movie called Idiocracy, and he is hilarious in that movie. I forget the deal. I specifically remember a car ad that used DB. Oh man, oh god. If anybody finds that, let me know, because that sounds amazing. Dragon Ball. Oh wait, hold on. We got this is in the Discord chat. Lizard posted the bootleg Do You Remember Love? Oh, look at that. It's so beautiful. I think it was Toyota with DBZ clips. Oh god, yeah. Yeah, see, I like that stuff. That's there's always licensing issues. So I get why that doesn't happen more often. Sonic getting Progressive insurance. Oh man. Yeah, I used to like that stuff. I still do. It's a matter of, I don't know. I to be honest, I just don't watch a lot of television now. So the whole landscape of television could change, and I would barely notice it. I watch maybe 3 or 4 shows, and that's it. And I mean, I watch Walking Dead because at this point I got to see it through to the end. I still am entertained by it, but it would have to get significantly bad for me to say that I don't care anymore, because I'm just so invested in it. I'm just going to keep watching it. But there are a lot of shows that I used to watch tons of television, and unfortunately, the reality is, as more things became available online, I can watch more content specified to my interests, because there was a big fear that we were going to watch the shows on television were going to transition into the internet, and watching television was going to go away. And what the reality is is that no, we don't even watch the shows on television anymore. We don't watch them online because we have so much content that is way more tailored to our interests. You know, we're at an hour and 43 minutes here. That's an hour and 43 minutes that kids could have been watching cartoons. You guys could have been watching some other shows, catching up on shows that aired prime time the night before, and you're watching it now. But you'll never watch those shows because you'd rather spend that time here, thank you, watching something that is more tailored to your interests. And again, I don't know where I was going with that. I found the commercials. Can you post links here? Do you have our Discord, Mr. Stardust? Do you have the Discord, or are you in here already? I don't watch TV. Period. You know what, Death? I have my 1 or 2 shows. Can somebody post the Discord, please, for Mr. Stardust? Shows tailored to people's interests as well. No, I don't think so, Aqua. I think that I think, unfortunately, with television, they're trying, because the point of television shows, in a way, is to, more so than ever, is to sell advertising. So they need to appeal to as many people as possible. A good example of that is The Big Bang Theory. I know that some people just hate the show now. I still like the show. I still find the show interesting. One of the things that I loved about the show was that it was, in a way, it was a celebration of characters from the geek culture. You know what I mean? They did these geeky things, and they encountered a lot of the same issues that we did in the beginning, you know, dealing with social awkwardness and things like that. As the show grew in popularity, there was a massive shift away from that, because now they need to appeal to a broader audience. You know, so now they have to have these elements of romance stories and things like that. They have to include these elements that are not, they weren't an issue in the beginning of the show. Sean made it. Everybody, Sean made it. Thank God. We were worried about you, buddy. Missed the last series, but it was more about the characters. Yeah, and that's the thing. And then they started to add these other things. They add these relationship elements, and I keep saying elements a lot, and I know you're happy about it. And they add these things, and what happens is they're trying to appeal to a broader audience, but you're also alienating some of the people who got into it for something else. You know what I mean? And that sort of happens over time. I never watched The Big Bang Theory, but I heard about it. Yeah, it was a good show, and I think it is still really good. I think one of the best episodes was in season 5, and it's an episode where they had the new Star Wars MMO was coming out, and they had decided that they wanted to. I'm very happy with you saying my name. They had decided that they wanted to spend the whole weekend playing games because it was something that they used to do, and I think all of us can relate to that. They used to just hang out all weekend and play video games, and now because they have so many responsibilities, they can't. So the episode was them doing that. It was them sitting around doing nothing, and then there was this side story where the two girlfriends, or it was the one girlfriend had included herself in their activity, and the other two girlfriends were upset because this is what was going on. One of my favorite episodes, because what they're doing is sort of like the situations that we deal with, where we want to do the geeky things that we used to do, but we have our lives. So this was them trying to escape from it for a little while. So that was relevant. But then when you have whole episodes about the relationship struggles that they're going through and everything, that's not custom tailored to geek culture. That is a broad notion. You know, having to deal with your relationship issues. That's a broad notion, and it appeals to masses as opposed to a specific group of people. So in the long run, the show ends up loses that. Hey, Vampire, I noticed you. I see you sitting there. Well, I see your name sitting there. I didn't watch much of Sheldon's. The whole reason I don't. Yeah, that's a character that I can do without. I get why he's there. It doesn't interest the character itself. Doesn't interest me. You remembered. What? I was saying your name. Do you like it? You like it. Oh man, what are we at? 451. Wow. We're almost at the end here. I'm kind of bummed out. No, I'm sad. It's not like I wanted you to call out my name or anything. Oh, is that so, Mr. Stardust? That's why pro streamers are so lucky. They don't have to worry when to cram in game time. Yeah, and that's one of the things. That's sort of where I was going with that as far as finale. As far see, you put, damn it, Spider, you put finale on there, and I read finale. It's just that we have content now that is so tailored to, and it's not, and that's the thing, as a geek growing up, I think one of the reasons I got so into, I'm into so many different things is because I love the culture, and my access was so limited. I had to take the culture wherever I can get it. I got into Pokemon because I was desperate for anime, and Pokemon was the only anime that was on TV. I play video games because video games were easily accessible. I watched so many old cartoons because I wanted to watch cartoons, and I had to watch whatever was there. Now I could sit here online and watch just video game stuff and never watch, and then you see it a lot with the younger crowd, and a lot of you guys are the younger crowd, because I unfortunately I do represent the older crowd. A lot of you guys know of anime, of these things, but you don't follow television much. You don't follow anime much because you can play video games, come online and watch video game content, and never interact with those other areas. There's so much content that it can be so specified for you. You could probably sit around and watch RPG gameplays all the time and never watch a first-person game being played. Waifu Greg Spider. I don't know. A spider with a different kind of knife for each hand does sound kind of awesome. My anime is very niche. We're gonna have to dip into that one. People like the character because they haven't really been around people like him. The show is too accurate. I'm only 12 years younger than you. And you know what? And you're part of a different generation, Lizard. At 12 years younger, you were part of a different generation because you had significant amounts of technology shortly after you were born. I didn't have direct access to things like the internet and computers until I was maybe 15 or 16. And even then it was the first time I used the computer to go on the internet, I was at my sister's house, and I want to say I was 15 years old. I might have been 16. What anime do you like? Sci-fi and odd fan. Come on, Elements. Come on. You gotta throw some names out there. I mean, other than Interstellar Stella. Because if you're saying sci-fi and odd fantasy stuff, you better say Interstellar Stella. Media is accessible to watch a 90-minute movie over 12 episodes. You know what, though, Mr. Stardust? You could watch 90-minute movie, and even if you don't like it, be done in 90 minutes. I have watched shows, and this is why I don't like the shows with really, really long episode counts, because I could watch it for 2 hours before I realize I'm not feeling this. You want names? I'll give you names. It's like, oh, do I have something here? It's like, come on, Elements. What anime do you like to watch? Oh. Hello Kitty travels to Hollywood. I mean, we all know that your favorite anime is is Cory in the House. Come on. I'm 26. That makes you young. 26 is young. I hate to tell you that. 26 is young. 26 is young the same way that a 60, 70-year-old looks at me and says I'm young. Cory in the House. Yeah, that's classic anime. Ghost in the Shell? No, I love Ghost in the Shell. I like Lupin the Third, but it wasn't totally my cup of tea. Ghibli movies, I think, are the gag with Ghibli movies is that they're so well made. It's hard to not like them. Bubblegum Crisis, Pat Labor, a bit of Appleseed. Appleseed's amazing. Eden of the East, I have not seen. Probably more, but yeah, it's always hard. Element's always hard to do. I get people that do that all the time. And you know what's funny? Going all the way back to the beginning of this episode, at the beginning of this discussion, at the beginning of this whole stream, if we're at a point where we have access to so much anime content that asking when people say things like, well, what anime have you seen? That's the same as asking somebody, well, what live action shows have you seen? Everything I've watched up to this point has been live action. I can't name every show that I've ever seen. And like I said, we're at a point with so much anime, you can't even say that anymore. You can't say, well, what anime have you seen? I've seen like 2,000 hours worth of shows. Of course you like the Jiggly movies. Hey. Yes. My anime thing is to watch 80s, 90s OVA. Some of them are done. I think my only problem with the 80s, 90s OVAs is the production content or the production quality. I have no problem with the bad imaging. I have a problem with bad sound. I'll take a bad picture over a bad sound any day of the week. When it comes to me watching like a stream or something, if the guy's mic is terrible, if I can barely understand what he's saying, I have a hard time watching it. I'll take 480p, 30 frames per second with a clear mic before I will take anything that it resembles the opposite of that. And that's my problem with old anime. I posted the other day the Dragon Warrior anime, the 13 episode anime, which apparently there are more episodes of that. I would love to see that. I would love to see the visuals cleaned up, but I would love to hear all the audio and the vocals redone. And I think that show, because yeah, if you try and watch that show now, it is very dated because of its quality. So yeah, high quality. Even it's like Pixar. You know what, Aqua? They're like Pixar movies. Studio Ghibli films are like Pixar movies, where even if what's going on in the movie isn't your cup of tea, the movie itself is a high quality movie, and that alone will usually give you enough oomph to keep watching the movie to the end. Saying I like anime, yeah, it's like saying I like movies. It's the same thing. Geist. Often when someone asks that they aren't aware how much they could... season. Some people do say I like movies. Yeah, and some people do say I like movies, and then that's when I look at them and go, what kind of movies? Porn? You're going to have to be a lot more specific than that. And then, of course, they're going to remember back to the stream and they're going to say horror. PS2 iToy. 166p only. Experiment. I don't remember if you were here yesterday, but I think we saw my lo-fi stream from yesterday. I like bricks for building houses. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't like porn. I like your use of the term hard pressed when you mentioned porn. Even if you didn't understand it. The oldest anime I watched all the way through was from 1977. Not like Kimba. Are you talking about like Kimba? Was it as early as that? Like Kimba the White Lion? Asexuals might not. Okay. Oh, Astro Boy and Gigantor. Yeah, Gigantor. I tried to watch some 60s, and you know what? It's not the visuals for me. For me, a lot of the time, it's the audio. It's the bad dubbing, the sound effects that are either too loud or too low. Oh, Zambot 3. Okay. Squeak. It is weird to me too, but I like weird. Bring back the mini arcade. All right. We're at 158. Yeah, we don't normally end this. Well, this is the second episode, so we don't normally end it anyway. But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. which is kind of a bummer. But there's only one Pixar movie I didn't like. Pixar movie you didn't like. Let's see here. Which Pixar movie would you have not liked? I'm trying to figure out what Pixar movie you wouldn't have liked. It might have been see, Cars were Pixar movies. It might have been Planes. If I was gonna pick a Pixar movie that you didn't like, I would say Planes. Planes wasn't. I thought. Oh no, Planes was Disney. Planes was just Disney back before the back after the split. The Incredibles stream over. Whoo, stream over. It's still weird. What's that? It's still weird. Kick shame upon you. Hey, nothing wrong with the weird stuff. Yeah, sometimes join a stream for the first time. But something that is going to hurt. What? Hey, mirror. That's how it happens. You know what I mean? It's got to go in weird. It's got to go in a little crooked. Which is probably as good a way as I can describe myself as anything. Shark Tale. I'm heading out to get Aqua. We're actually getting ready to wrap it up here. Oh, this isn't one of those times. That's okay. Well, we're wrapping it up anyway. So, with any luck, you'll find somewhere that's more enjoyable. My favorite Disney movie is Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, movie's still going. And hey, Lady Foxheart, what's going on? Unfortunately, we're wrapping it up here. But I do want to thank you guys. So we are going to wrap it up now. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. One day we'll have a name for all of this silliness. It's just kind of it's kind of difficult to come up with a name for just this sort of rambling that we do, or that I do. But thank you guys for joining me. Have an amazing weekend. I hope everybody had a decent week. If you didn't, have an amazing weekend, and if you did, also have an amazing weekend. I should be back on Monday, I believe. We should be back on Monday with we'll probably do more Mario and Rabbids since we're right at the end of that game. I did pick up Dragon Quest Builders. I'm probably not going to play that regularly on stream just because that is such a large game and I want to be able to just keep playing it because I played the hell out of the demo. But we'll stream that every once in a while, and we'll just show off some progress and show off whatever I'm currently doing at the time. But thank you guys for joining me. Have a great night. Have a great weekend, and I will see you Monday.